Haha, Monday. Weekend's over. Go back to work, bitch. Haha. I hate it here.
Brendan Blabber, better known online as JelloApocalypse, is a 30-year-old voice actor and YouTuber with an impressive following of 1.9 million subscribers. Best known for his So This Is Basically series, where he summarizes anime and video games in a humorous way, albeit the humor tends to lean towards Tumblr-esque quirky humor.
Meet Deku's friends from Class 1A, Interplanet Janet, Initial D, Slip and Slide, Easy Make Oven, All Frogs Go to Heaven, Gunpowder Gelatine, Dynamite with a Laser Beam, Caught on Tape, Not on Tape, Tetsu 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 Tetsu, Two Birds, One Hero, Animal Crossing. Damn it, how do these things always get so tangled? That's rough, buddy. Ew. Soda, OJ, purple stuff, and two kinds of Sunny D.
I don't personally find it funny, but to each their own. Jello has made it an impressive distance on YouTube in the 13 years he's been on the platform, and I'm not gonna shit on the guy for the grind. He's making the content he likes that people enjoy. For the most part. Mondays, why are you talking about JelloApocalypse? You only talk about freaks and lolcows. True, but don't worry my dear viewers, I'll feed you the drama you all crave. The reason I'm talking about him is because even though he has his silly, uwu soft boy anime videos, Jello can't seem to stop purposefully getting himself into trouble.
Oh man, look at this. Dog shit.
The dude is massively successful and seems like an okay guy in my opinion, though he gives me flashbacks of the annoying theater kids in high school, and I roll my eyes when I see his content.
I'm the Joker, baby!
The issue with Jello is that he has a massive ego. The first example of this is back in November of 2018, where Brendan posted a video that was significantly different from his usual content. Vote. A video where he urges people to vote in the US midterms. For any non-Americans, the midterms basically decide on the Senate and the House of Representatives. This clarification shows that I have no idea if other countries have midterm elections and I am far too lazy to check. He starts the video by simply saying that you should vote for who you think is best. He then quickly drops this facade and goes into a very pro-left speech about doing the right thing and being a good person. At the same time, he makes all the good characters on screen blue and uses a blue background while spouting his positive message, and makes all the violent and bad characters red, with a red background when talking about voting racists and bigots into power. Subtle. I have zero interest in talking about politics. Believe what you believe, no skin off my back. I just want to point out Brendan's horrible bias in attempting at manipulating his fans, which, let's be real, fans of this sort of content were going to vote liberal in the first place. Seems like a waste of effort and credibility to me, Brendan.
Check this out.
After that, Jello's next big controversy wasn't until 2023, though I'm sure he did more cringe stuff during that grace period. He and his friend Marissa Lenti were hired by Discotheque Media to localize the English dub of the anime Lovely Complex. Lovely Complex is an anime based on the 2001 shoujo manga, Japanese comics aimed at young women, by Aya Nakahara about the romance between a tall girl, Rise Koizumi, and a short boy, Atsushi Otani, who are treated as a comedy duo by their classmates. Can you guys tell I took that straight from Wikipedia? So what's the problem here? He's an established voice actor and in the community. Aside from the fact that anime is for huge losers that don't talk to girls, the issue is that, once again, Jello thought he knew better. Jello and Lenti heavily rewrote the story and characters of Lovely Complex to suit their own personal beliefs of what Lovely Complex should be. To those of you who don't know, localization is already a controversial topic in the anime community, because it's stupid and it shouldn't be done over translating everything as one-to-one as physically possible. But I digress. Actual fans don't want an edited, westernized plot written by English literature major college dropouts instead of the original dialogue. In a now deleted Patreon post, Jello talks about his issues with the original script, and instead of trying to understand the themes and characters, he would go on to say how he and Marissa worked hard to rewrite it. I've never seen or read Lovely Complex, and really have no urge to, but an article I found on the website animefeminist.com goes into extreme detail of the show and why Jello's rewrite is not only poorly done, but done so due to his own lack of understanding of the plot. That's right, people. Mondays Weekly is teaming up with the feminists on this one. I don't care how icky girls are, the point must be made. The author of the article, Caitlin Moore, describes Jello as having an outright hatred of the series, with an inability to understand the story and heroine of this fairly straightforward romantic comedy, who he proclaimed to be psychotic. Jello failed to understand that the protagonist of Lovely Complex is a middle school girl from Japan, who would naturally have a different mindset to him, something any writer needs to be aware of, or else every single character will have the same voice. Your voice. Although I suspect that's exactly what Jello wanted. Moore goes on to point out how Risa and Atsushi are very similar in the fact that they often have the same flaws and immature personalities since they're both kids and still growing up. But Jello, for some reason, always sees the protagonist Risa as the problem and the aggressor, when even the story itself points out that both characters are in the wrong. Fun fact, we canonically wrote and directed Risa as a psychopath who doesn't understand empathy, and Otani being in a cycle of abuse without realizing it. Because that's the only way their highly inconsistent actions make any kind of sense. At one point, Otani literally tells Risa he, quote, bought a gift for her in preparation for the next time she got mad at him, which is what resolves their current tiff. That's a trauma response! And it's in the sub. Uh-oh, sisters. Hey, Brandon, if a shoujo manga, a genre aimed primarily at young women, has a series where the protagonist is an abusive girl that's a psychopath that doesn't understand empathy, I don't think it would be very popular. And it's almost like teenagers are young and stupid, so their actions are often inconsistent. But you wouldn't know that because you never were a teenager. I'm obviously not the target audience here, so let's ask my good friend and shoujo expert Eyeris what she thinks.
Lovely Complex is a shoujo anime and manga that has had a very fraught past. As a whole, Lovely Complex's manga has had a much more positive response, but anytime the anime gets brought up, there tends to be setbacks with it. While no anime adaptation is perfect, it seems like Lovely Complex in and of itself isn't always done well. The unfortunate part is when you mesh that with a disregard or unwillingness to care about the content of the original piece, it leads to bigger issues. Shoujo in and of itself is a genre defined by its core feeling. Shoujo manga tends to be geared towards a more emotional center, a more feminine side. Shoujo, meaning young girl, obviously lends it to having that sort of issue. And very frequently it is overlooked in favor of shonen manga. Lovely Complex in and of itself didn't have a great run of its first anime, at least in the West. And then coupled that with some very bad choices in localization has really hampered its ability to kind of grab hold of the market and stay there, because a good majority of people are, at least on a casual viewer side, are more likely to watch the dub than they ever would the sub, which leads to obvious issues of not being able to properly convey the story in the English language, but instead opting for a more inferior and slightly more, I don't want to say it like that, but displaced sort of feeling. It's just not the same product anymore.
Little wordy, can you dumb that down?
Yeah, I can put that in layman's terms. Localization made Lovely Complex sad, no good, very bad. Shoujo manga lovers everywhere cry silently.
Thanks, Eyeris. The Lovely Complex dub does suck because JelloApocalypse can't write due to his own massive ego. From what I gathered, Jello also didn't like that there were jokes at the expense of a trans character in the series and pushed to have them removed, being very upset when they remained in the subtitled version of the show. Now, what would someone with a normal-sized ego do? Bite their tongue and accept that you can't win every single battle. What Jello did, though, was make that giant Patreon post, which included him saying that, "I think we turned an unremarkable and frustrating 3 out of 10 show into a pretty funny and mostly watchable 7 out of 10. Very smart. Very professional. Surprisingly, Discotheque wasn't too happy about Jello blatantly insulting the property he was hired to work on, making a public statement that they will no longer be working with him.
Police, get what you fucking deserve!
On top of all that, Jello even goes so far as to insult Nakahara, the author of Lovely Complex, saying that, "You get the sense the author sees the world the same way as Rise Koizumi does. And Risa Koizumi as a character only makes sense if she is a psychopath who does not understand human empathy." He really likes reusing the psychopath and lacking empathy lines, huh? Jello's overinflated sense of his own character lets him feel justified in looking down on the creators of the media that he's working on. That's like a guy working in the mailroom of an office, looking down on the CEO because he thinks his Lamborghini is a dumb color. And that's not even the only time Jello has criticized an author. Jello's most current controversy started on December 6th, 2024, where after a 4-year hiatus, he finally uploaded the newest installment of the So This Is Basically series. So this is basically One Piece. So those of you who don't know, One Piece is the most popular shonen manga aimed at young to teenage boys, in the world. It's an action comedy about a crew of pirates led by Monkey D. Luffy, a young man made of rubber. A simple and fun concept. It's no wonder that it's so popular. The issue with this video is that unlike all of his other So This Is Basically videos, this one felt much more spiteful. While it was full of his sort of humor, it was clearly much more mean-spirited, constantly accusing the creator, Eiichiro Oda, of sexism for not giving his female characters more screen time. Psst, hey, Jello. None of the main cast aside from Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji get any real screen time anymore. It's a flaw in his writing all around, not just women, so stop cherry-picking to push your weird narrative. Jello also accuses Oda of not wanting to credit his assistants, which I have no idea how he came to that conclusion. I looked into it and couldn't find anything about it. I think Jello may have literally just been lying. If I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. He then follows up by criticizing Oda's tendency to overwork himself, and while not a bad thing in particular, it shows Brandon's lack of understanding of how manga is actually made. One Piece is a weekly manga series, putting out 18 to 19 pages a week. It's a grueling job that requires an extreme work schedule that can provide the artist with as little as 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night. Brendan is talking shit about Oda when he clearly knows nothing of manga production. Yet, as I mentioned, his ego makes him feel entitled enough to criticize a man who's been a giant in the industry for nearly 30 years. Jello has a surface-level understanding of the topic, and of most things he criticizes, and thinks that he's smarter than everyone else. Arrogant enough to talk shit, when in reality he's a fucking moron. But that's not enough. He even went so far as to imply Oda is a sicko for drawing sexualized characters that are 16 years old, and comparing them to Oda's daughters. Now, I'm not interested whatsoever in getting into the argument of the whole "it's just a drawing" thing. I will point out a huge fallacy in Jello's discussing implications. The average age of a Shonen Jump reader is 13 to 18, making a 16-year-old character the ideal girl for that target demographic. Not saying I like it, but it makes sense for the reader base. But there's one other thing I'd like to mention. Remember how I said Jello is a voice actor, and a pretty established one at that? Well, guess who voices a recurring role in One Piece? If you guessed Brendan Blabber, aka JelloApocalypse, you're correct! While not a big role by any means, Jello voices a recurring character in a series created by a man that he himself has accused of sexism and sickoism, and still does to this day. So let me ask you this, Brendan. Why do you support these disgusting practices when you are such a pillar of morality, who's basically a saint among all us sinners? If you're such a good person and you mean everything you say, you should step down from that role and publicly state that you will never voice a character in One Piece ever again. That is, unless you don't actually believe any of these things, and in reality only said them to get these snide little remarks in at a man who's massively successful. And that in reality you have no real integrity and seem to just be weirdly bitter about One Piece? But hey, what do I know? But no one should criticize Jello, because after his One Piece video, he got death threats that he didn't show or give a single example of. Funny. Usually people want to show all the death threats that they get to the public to show that they're real, or talk about them so they can show them to the cops. Kind of weird that Jello was horribly harassed but didn't show any proof of it. He just brought it up once on Twitter, then never brought it up again. Weird. But even if he is lying about something so awful, He's allowed to do so because he's morally superior to everyone else. He's allowed to protect himself through lies and manipulation. That being said, regardless if he's lying or not, you should never send death threats to anyone for any reason. That's fucked up. JelloApocalypse is a completely harmless person. He's just a dipshit with a giant ego. I won't downplay his work or the accomplishments he's made so far. I actually respect a lot of them. But he constantly thinks he's smarter than everyone else. Hubris is a funny thing. When you have it, you don't think you do. Jello seems to be just that person, thinking he can do whatever he wants, including manipulating his followers and talking down to everyone else because he's right. That's the sort of ego that, if left unchecked, will keep growing until it ruins you. Fortunately, Jello hasn't done anything so bad that there's no turning back, but each controversy he gets himself into is worse than the last. If he doesn't take the time to start self-reflecting and learning from his mistakes, things will just get worse and he'll ruin the career he's worked so hard to build. Thanks for watching, people. I hope you liked this video. I got more into the topic of Brennan blabber while writing this than I thought I would. Guess my dumb anime nerd blood started to boil while talking about some asshat who thinks he's smarter than the creators. So what do you guys think? Do you all think that Jello is beyond saving? You think he can wise up and take a step back so that he stops getting himself into trouble? Tell me what you think in the comments. I'd like to see your opinions. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I always appreciate that. Alright, y'all have a good day. Peace. By the way, I sound kind of weird in this video because I just got over the flu.